Welcome to the Emergence of Mass Society, topic number 12 by Mr. Kraus, pages 651 to 664 in Spielvogel. Don't forget to check out those pages if you get a chance for a little light reading because it is interesting. This is the emergence basically of modern society, starting with rapid population growth. The dramatic population increase of the late 1800s was due to not just the beginning of increased birth rates. Actually, birth rates were falling in industrialized nations, but decreased fatalities due to improved sanitation conditions and improved agriculture, as we discussed. Many countries could not handle this increased population, so more people left Europe for economic reasons rather than nationalist reasons. And mostly they went to the United States. Continuing on to the transformation of the urban environment, the urban environment continued to change in the late 1800s. Public health acts, especially the late 1800s, 1875, said that no new buildings could be built without running water indoors, which led to indoor bathrooms and again improved sanitation. And city centers were transformed during this time period. They realized the needs for parks and boulevards and open spaces so that people could, first it lessened disease, but also so people could have a little bit more enjoyment and relaxation. The importance of housing needs, they came up with public works programs, ripped down slums and tenements, especially in heavily populated cities like London, with population of over 2.5 million people by the late 1800s. Population, by the way, boomed in Central Europe from 270 million to 460 million. So again, that population graph going up during this time period. The social structure, still the top of the pyramid. The 5% of European society has a majority of the wealth, 30% of the wealth, but there is a growing middle class. Middle class were not working class. They were what was called white-collar workers, meaning they didn't get their collars dirty working or getting their hands dirty in the factories. These white-collar workers were getting wealthy from banking, investments, even artists and plutocrats, educators in some cases, although educators weren't really getting wealthy, but professionals and white-collar workers made up 15%. 80% of the population was still the lower-class workers in society, the unskilled, urban poor, working class, semi-skilled laborers, and women were legally inferior in terms of pay and even in terms of marriage privileges, especially in some Eastern European countries. Of course, the further east you go, the worse it gets in terms of liberalism during this time period. Education, secondary schools. Bottom line up front, in order to be an industrialized society, in order to be a successful society, you need education. And the industrialized nations realized that they needed programs to train people to be specialized in industries to be successful. So they started turning their attention towards their education systems and realizing that they needed professionally trained educators. Okay, good move. This movement started in the 1870s. Secondary school education improves society. Education also improves nationalism. Reading, writing, arithmetic, and national history were the main points of focus during the time period. And they also taught in education the key virtues of the middle class, like sobriety and hard work. So education became a fundamental cornerstone of any successful country. Moving on, leisure activities. For the first time in the history of the world, larger numbers of people had enough free time and enough extra money to be able to think about doing things for fun instead of just doing things to survive. Very similar to what you probably talked about in the American late Industrial Revolution and the early 20th century. So during this time period, what people did for fun when they weren't working, team sports were on the rise during this time period. Also, new technology, things like carnivals and Ferris wheels coming about during the late 1800s in Britain especially, leading the way, and even rise in tourism with the Great Exhibition of 1858 and then later other tourist opportunities in Europe and Britain. People started specializing, like Thomas Cook, in special train trips and tourist attractions where they realized they could make more money and draw more customers if they advertised, and tourism became a big pastime. Team sports, the late 1800s, baseball and football both got their starts. Also, what we know today as professional soccer and even rugby associations in European countries became professionalized, meaning people got paid to play because people paid to watch them. Okay, time for a quick pop quiz. Why were urban cities becoming so overpopulated? And because of this issue, where did many individuals move to? What did the Public Health Act of 1875 prohibit? What was the key result from the extreme improvements towards education? And who was the British pioneer who experimented with tourism, and what did he conclude? There's your answers. And there's bibliography, Spielvogel, of course, and thank you to Emily Giannini for the use of these slides.